From Prison to Peer Work, brought to you in partnership with the Pursue It If You Want It nonprofit organization. Join us as we explore these powerful narratives that not only highlight the struggles, but also celebrate the victories of individuals who have used their past as a stepping stone to build a promising future. We delve deep into the lives of individuals who have turned their experiences into powerful stories of success through the strength of resilience and peer support. Stay tuned for episodes that promise to be as enlightening as they are inspiring.
Warning, the following interview is recorded live, uncensored, and unrehearsed.
My goodness.
Welcome to another episode of a wonderfully impactful story you're about to hear. I'm here with Cortney Candelaria. I'm your host, B. Willis. This is a Pie Talk podcast production. Welcome to From Prison to Peer Work. So, as usual, we're just going to kind of dive right in.
All right.
Super. Yeah, we get to the point, right? So, can you share some memories from your childhood?
So, for my childhood, I'm born and raised here in Olympia. I've been here all my life, born at St. Peter's Hospital.
Nice.
I'm one of 5 children. My mom has 5 kids. I'm the oldest. My childhood, I grew up kind of like I had dirt bikes. We lived on property. I had a tree house. I had all the toys that the boys usually had in the neighborhood. So to say, go-karts, quads, dirt bikes, BB guns, paintball guns. So I was out playing outside. Most of my childhood, like when I was a youngster, before I started getting in trouble, I was always outside playing.
Were there any significant events in your childhood that you think shaped who you are today?
I actually have had a lot of things happen throughout my childhood that probably really shaped the road that I ended up going on. I would say I was about 7. My mom had left, and she was gone for a couple of years, and that really kind of set me on a trail of like kind of destruction. And then I lived with my dad and my grandma. My dad wasn't really around much, and I didn't really have any parents growing up, really. If you like look at the bigger picture, my grandma was sick. She had 7 children of her own, had some other grandchildren she had already raised. I kind of just, lived there with my grandma.
Yeah.
And so at a very young age, I had developed independence to, kind of do my own thing. Learned very quickly that, you have to learn how to do things on your own. And so I think that's really planted independence in me today and self-motivation.
How old were you when you first had an encounter with the law?
I would say I was the first time I ever encountered the law, like me, from my doing, I was 11 years old. And I was out stealing my grandma's car, chasing some older neighborhood boys around in their cars. And, I got caught right down in Nisqually by the res cops. And they pulled me over. I have a bunch of friends in my car with me. And they're like, "Oh, you're out joyriding, just get your permit." And I'm like, "No, I'm not even out of elementary school." And they're like, "Oh, this is going to be interesting." Like, and so it was the res cops. Luckily, it wasn't state. So in that whole ordeal, I ended up going to court, getting some community service hours, and I had to pay a $20 fine because the judge was like, "Oh, well, I'm going to make it low enough so she can learn some responsibility." And that year, I had gotten caught a couple other times by the Nisqually police as well. And so they kind of know who I was. My dad worked for the tribe, and they're like, third time, they're like, "If you get caught again, we're going to report to the state." But then my final fine for driving my grandma's car illegally at 11, 12 years old was $60. And that was the beginning of my interactions with the police.
So extensive, but we'll get into that.
Yeah.
When did you first come into contact with drugs or alcohol, and what led you to start using?
So, drugs or alcohol? I would say about 5 or 6. My my dad and my mom smoked weed. And so people, my cousins, they'd all smoke weed. And my other cousin was like, oh, yeah, you smell that? That's weed. And then my neighbor's parents had brought it up to my attention that, oh, yeah, your parents are on drugs, thinking, they were smoking weed
Yeah.
back then. But that was like my first, oh, hey, they're smoking weed. Like, what's going on? Like, oh, yeah, I smell that. That's weed. And that was probably, kindergarten-ish.
Yeah. And what led you to start using?
What led me into my use? I just, about 12, I started smoking weed on the regular because I had an older cousin in the neighborhood who sold weed. And he literally would like, oh, get grandma to give you some money, or here, I'll take you to sell some magazines and we're going to get some money and buy some weed for me. And literally I'd give him like, all the money I can come up with, sometimes like $20, $40, whatever the case is. I'm young. And he'd give me like one little bowl of weed. And for the longest time,
Dirtbag.
yeah, super. And then finally, when I hit high school, I was smoking weed, starting doing other things, such as ecstasy was the next big thing that I was really into back then. Mushrooms. We'd go out to Nisqually Fields and look for mushrooms. But it started with the weed at like 11 years old from family members.
So looking back, what do you think you were seeking through those actions?
Looking back, I would say I was probably seeking, I wanted to feel like I was a part of, because I didn't really have my family growing up. I was separated from my siblings at a young age. My dad was in and out. My grandma was sick. My mom was absent. And I just wanted to feel like I had some kind of place. And when I was in the drug scene at that young age, people wanted to be around. Like, I learned at a very young age how to become independent. And when I'd go to school and literally gather everybody's money to go find the biggest bag of weed I can find, and I had the people, so it gave me this sense of like some kind of importance at that time. Like,
Yeah. So you started selling around
yeah,
that time.
selling, using, whatever.
Okay, we're gonna move on to a little bit. So can you describe your earlier experiences with addiction and how it influenced your life?
Addiction. I would say by the time I was 15, I had been fully blown addicted on drugs. I dropped out of high school. My parents had no house. My grandma lost her house. And I literally was on the streets. Met my baby's dad and my daughter's dad around that time. And we literally would panhandle, do everything like bottom of the bottom, try to come up with money to use, essentially. Around that same time, I discovered, oh, well, hey, I have people that I know have known all my life that, I don't have to sell or go do dirtbag things to come up with anything. I could just go babysit my cousins, go do odd things for my family members, and I just had a bag.
Yeah.
Essentially, I didn't have to go anywhere. I can just stay home and get high. I didn't have to go to the streets and get high because I had family members that contributed to that lifestyle at that time.
So how did your addiction impact your ability to maintain relationships and your responsibilities?
Responsibilities in that particular time in my life, I didn't have any responsibilities. I was in and out of JRA, Echo Glen several times. And when I'd get out, I'd go on the run because I'd be using. I couldn't give no clean UA. My probation officer didn't approve where I lived. They wanted me to go into foster care because I was under 18. And so I would just avoid. I didn't take school seriously. I dropped out of school, didn't pursue school until a little bit later. And really had nobody really had given me any guidance, and I didn't really think I really needed any guidance at that time. I'm so stubborn.
Yeah.
Super stubborn. So you couldn't really teach Cortney anything at point in my life, mid-teens, early teens.
Mm-hmm.
Not happening.
So, what factors contributed to your tumultuous relationship with your daughter's father and then later your daughter?
What does tumultuous mean?
Um, conflict ridden,
Okay.
right?
Yeah. So, with my daughter's dad, we were together for almost 7 years. He was my best friend for a lot of years. We went through a lot of, we went through using, we got clean together, we created our life. By the time I was 18, I was already done, burnt out in the drug scene. I wanted to get my act together and start something because I thought when I turned 18, I could start fresh. All my felonies, everything, I'd start fresh. And so I'm like, oh, I'm glad I got all that out of my system.
Right.
But that wasn't the case. But even though I was still a felon since I was 12, and I had caught in multiple felonies from 12 to 18, I my baby's dad stuck through several JRA sentences with me. When I got out, he'd always be there with me by my side no matter what. When we decided to get our act together and get clean and get real jobs and actually get our own place.
What was your first real job?
I worked at Quiznos in
Okay.
DuPont.
Okay.
Yeah. So when I turned 18, I moved out of Thurston County. I got off probation, got off parole, and I got out of Thurston County because I didn't have anything down here.
Yeah, fresh start.
Yeah.
Right?
And so I went to Tacoma, lived out there for almost 8 years, and had my daughter at St. Joe's when I was a couple weeks before my 19th birthday. Um, and me and my baby's dad, things were going good. I was working for the state. He was working doing welding. We were making pretty good money. We had puppy, we had the baby, we had house, we had cars. Like we were doing everything the right way, like you would think, young kids would be doing to create their life, not knowing that we came from the streets, not knowing that we came from what we had came through.
What was your first state job?
I worked for a Department of Ecology.
Okay.
Yeah, cleaning up illegal dump sites and garbage. Yeah, at the time I think minimum wage was still like 763.
Yeah.
And I was making like 15.
Crazy. Yeah.
I was making like $15 an hour, walking the highways, going to state parks, looking for illegal dump sites, going through the trash, doing extensive recycling. Like,
yeah,
I loved it.
He was up.
Yeah. So we were great until we had gotten to a place where we wanted to move up. And so we went and got a bigger place with like a big backyard for the kid and the dog, and our house had got robbed. We lived on Hilltop up at their 21st and Sheridan.
Mm-hmm.
Had just sold 2 of our cars, had some money stacked up,
So you had the cash in the house?
Had cash in the house. It was right before the beginning of the month. We had all of our bill money orders, everything. And literally, I was at work one day and he was at work one day and someone came and broke into our house. We had pit bulls, nicest dogs you could meet. Let somebody in, cleared us out. And that was the beginning of the end of our relationship, I'm pretty sure. Because we got robbed, moved out of that house because we couldn't pay our bills that following month. And the landlord was super cool. She's like, I'm just going to let you break the lease. I'm not going to, charge you for breaking the lease.
Yeah.
Because we weren't there quite a year. And so we packed up, moved to Centralia, where it was better.
Way south.
Yeah, way south. Went from Tacoma to Centralia.
Still not Thurston County. I mean,
yeah, still,
but not like Olympia, Lacey's.
Exactly.
You still.
I went from north of Olympia to south of Olympia.
Yeah, right.
And so we moved down there, and a couple months after we moved down there, our house burnt down. Right after tax season, got my income tax that year. It was like $10,000, and it all burned up in my house fire. And so I lost my dogs, I lost cars, I lost everything in this house fire. And my baby's dad we were still going through these trials and tribulations together. I was working 2 jobs. I was going to school at New Market still. I was 20 years old at the time.
Yeah.
New Market. I was hustling on the side, try to get some side money too, because we just got cleaned out bam, bam, like all within a year.
Back to back, yeah.
Yes, we were really kind of like penny pushing to keep things together. So after the house fire, we ended up moving out to Yelm. And Yelm was probably not a good choice. We weren't out there very long. My neighbors were big into the pills, big into the ecstasy game, into the weed game. And that was probably the real beginning of the end of me and my baby's dad, Sean, because he smoked weed. I didn't smoke weed at the time. I was completely drug free, and he started getting high again. We got evicted. He quit his job. I let my dad move in with us to try to like pick up that extra money so I didn't have to hustle so hard on the side and work 2 jobs and go to school and raise a baby at the time. I was burnt out. I was burnt out, and I said, hey, check it out. If we're going to get evicted, I'm not leaving you because I don't love you. I'm leaving you because we financially can't be together. I can't drag you with me. I can't take care of you. I was like, at the time I was thinking to myself, I'm going to get my own spot. I'm going to, get my life in order some. And if he can do the same, we can combine and collaborate, like create something.
Come back together.
Yeah.
Meet back over here.
Yeah, but that never happened. And so he went right back to doing meth, doing heroin, doing pills, doing whatever at the time was convenient for him. And any interaction we ever had was just foul.
After that?
Yeah. Then a couple years later down the road, fast forward, I decided to try to help him out because he's like, I want to get clean. I want to at least get off the heroin and this and that. And I'm like, I'll help you out. You can't live in the car with my daughter because he had my daughter. So I let them move in with me, and they lived with me for about a year, and he took off with her. And he took off with her for quite a few months. Didn't have her in school, had a no contact order on me, told the cops that I was abusive, told all kinds of crazy stuff. And so we didn't talk. We didn't talk at all. We didn't interact at all. I ended up getting my daughter back because he had left her in a van for days. It was a really, really rough time at that time in my life because I wanted to help him out. I don't want to be with him, but I wanted to help him get on his feet. And he just didn't do anything. Wasn't doing nothing. He was just too lost in the addiction to try to fight for something. And he thought if he could have hold of my daughter, then he'd be able to get benefits, get housing, get whatever, get sympathy from people. And I was not for that. And so after I got my daughter back, we didn't talk. We didn't talk for years. Actually, we didn't even talk until like last year. We didn't talk that many years because we did not get Yeah, it was very, very toxic.
We're gonna switch the tone just a little bit. So can you share more about your passion for working on cars and your self-proclaimed tomboy identity?
My self-proclaimed tomboy identity?
Everybody knows.
I'm pretty sure my sister calls me Brother Cortney from time to time. I've always liked to work on things. I love tools. I would say I'm like my dad's little boy that he never had. I'm my dad's only child. He taught me from a very young age how to do things like work on the lawnmower, work on my dirt bikes, work on my go-karts, build things, work on the cars, do oil changes, things like that. So that gave me a real passion for tinkering on things. One thing that my dad taught me was like, hey, if you can take it apart, you can probably put it back together.
Right. Reverse engineering at its finest.
Yeah. So.
Yeah. What led to your involvement in ruling a compound and engaging in violent behavior?
Oh boy. So here we are back at that. I wanted to be a part of something, but I don't know what it is. I guess I have some kind of like leadership, strong leadership. And so I was, at that point when I got to the compound, I was homeless. And the guy who got the compound, Dave Piles, he's like, hey, I'll give you a trailer if you help me clear, get these other houses, livable. And I'll give you cheap rent. You can have the trailer. You can do whatever you want with it. You can sell it. You can rent it out. You can live in it. And so I did. I pulled all my resources together, and day and night worked on these other trailers, got them filled up with people. Maybe not the best type of people at the time, but got them all filled up, and it was like I was a manager of this little trailer park, essentially.
Kind of a violent manager.
Kind of a violent manager. Tumwater cops were there every day for a lot of days in a row. One year, yeah, Tumwater cops really haven't had the best relationship with me because of the compounds. And yeah, I'm known for being violent. They never could prosecute, but I try
Okay.
not to be violent these days. Switch it up.
So, can you discuss your relationship with a notorious dealer and a leader in the streets and how it evolved over time without saying names?
I would say that me being me, I have like, how to say this? So, yeah, I've known to have, friends who don't have the best of names in town, and I think my role in all of that has been just being dedicated to, at the time, the way we're living this lifestyle. Respect, having integrity with relations, like with drugs, with money. I always pay my debts, things like that. Try to be, this higher elite drug addict at the time, essentially.
Yeah.
Just in that leadership role, just somehow or another, I ended up in these circles that I guess you could say were notorious, or
You could say that.
yeah, you could say that, or known to be, people. If we were coming around, people were knowing like what's up.
Yeah.
So, like I said, I just have been a super loyal, dedicated friend. I still am a super loyal, dedicated friend. Just my roles of how I live life has flipped the script.
I often say to people, like, I didn't change who I am. I just changed my priorities.
For sure.
Right.
And I can definitely agree with that.
So, what was your lowest point during your addiction, and how did you cope with it?
I think one of the lowest points in my addiction was when I was moving out of the compound, the first compound that I lived at. So I didn't have a bag. I literally had no power. I was stealing power. I was moving in the middle of snow. I had no car. I was moving all my stuff to a storage container by bicycle and carts with I went from like up here to like down here like overnight. And when I realized, okay, well, hey, this really sucks. All my people that I thought were my people really weren't my people. They just were after something.
Yeah.
I really realized who my people really were.
What was some of your like self-talk in that? And can you remember, like, how were you like motivating yourself or not motivating yourself? Like, what were you saying to yourself when you were really, really down there in that space?
You're going to get through this, just be patient, things will wait for that next opportunity is what I kept telling myself, just wait it out. They're like, oh, why aren't you making moves? Why aren't you doing that? And I'm just like, wait it out, the opportunity will show itself eventually. But right now I just could not, I just was so focused on, trying to stay out of the limelight, trying to stay, get my stuff moved out of the place where I was at, the compound. It just was like a number of things. Not having transportation, not having people there for me, even my own family, like kind of weren't there for me because I had isolated so badly because I was ashamed.
Yeah.
Essentially, I was ashamed. I was embarrassed. I didn't have that role that I had been playing for such a long time, and I didn't want people to see that.
Yeah.
I don't want people.
And what they call that imposter syndrome. You kind of like you want to be this role, but the circumstances weren't allowing you to be that role.
Yeah.
So you kind of just
I kind of
slink
tucked
away
back,
into the shadows.
Yeah, here we'll wait for the next chapter
where you could present yourself better. Yeah. So, Recently, I happened to be in a space where you described one of the worst times of your life. So, how did you navigate the challenges of being pregnant while facing multiple charges and incarceration?
So, this last time I was in Thurston County Jail, I got there at 16 weeks pregnant, looking at 17 felony charges. My bail was $1 million. I went for a bail reduction hearing, and they literally gave me $579,000 as my bail reduction. And I didn't think I was going to get out of jail. How I navigated that was, I kept writing to the guards, writing to classification, like, hey, I'm not aggressive, put me in the dorm, give me some kind of options here,
You were in
work with
Max at
me.
first?
I was in Max almost the whole time.
Pregnant and in Max.
Pregnant in a Max by myself in a cell,
Emotions
not even
going
getting
crazy.
out of my cell, like in the Max for women at Thurston County Jail. No one knows. You don't get to get out of your cell. They bring you the telephone. You do all your visits through your cuff port. You get out for the shower. They walk you to the shower.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, you don't get out of your cell at all. So I'm in my cell walking 5,000 steps a day because I'm like, I need to walk because I'm pregnant.
Right.
I'm like, I need to get some exercise. This isn't healthy for the baby. I just prayed. Every day I prayed that this wasn't the end. I reached out to the community, and people that had known me for a lot of years had reached out to me. I had people write to my prosecutors. I had people write to my attorneys. When I had court, I had people come to the court hearings, even if I wasn't there. I had people in the courtroom.
Yeah.
And all these factors. And then I had somebody also in jail on the other side of jail, want to take some of my charges, my co-defendant. And then about 8 months in, the guy who said that I essentially try to catch him on fire, shoot at him. So I was in there for arson, attempted murder, assault with a deadly weapon, unlawful discharge of a firearm, very serious charges. That guy who were making these accusations died of a drug overdose. And so my attorney one morning comes and says, hey, we have this guy over here begging to get you out of trouble, willing to take more time. We have this guy who can't come to court because now he is dead.
He passed away.
Yeah, passed away. And he's like, right now is our chance. Prosecutor's willing to work with you. No face, no case. It's a real thing. That's what he literally said to me. So my co-defendant ended up pleading out. And so I got left with two of my cases. My two original cases I was at on bail on was intent to deliver while armed with a firearm, 4 counts of possession of a firearm. I was able to get drug court literally like 3 weeks before my due date. So I was up in drug court doing my orientation like 2 weeks before my due date. They sent me to Yakima, got signed on with drug court, and that's all she wrote. So I was like, kept praying, and all these change of circumstances happened. Made me believe that there has to be something out there, that this is not the end. So here's my chance, and I'm going to actually make something of myself this time. I'm not going to go back to what I was doing before. Like, I have so much on the line now, and I'm bringing this child into the world. Like, it's super, super important that I get another chance at raising a child. I was an absent parent with my daughter. And drug court has really changed my life. Yeah.
So, how did the passing of your son's father affect you in your journey to recovery?
Well, this is a game breaker. My son's father is actually Tyler.
Really?
Which I kept telling him, no, you can't be the father.
So the person you thought
was my father died 10 days after I got to treatment.
So the person you thought was Carson's dad passed away.
Yes.
So initially you thought your baby's father passed away.
Correct.
And then you found out it's Tyler's son.
Yes. So somebody who I kept telling him, no. And he's like, well, I think, I deserve the chance to know. I got clean and sober. I'm, doing the right thing so that if I am, then I can be in you guys' life. Mm-hmm. And he's like, I have the right to know, and I'm thinking, well, don't be devastated if it's not. If you're not the father, don't be upset. Like, I don't want to send you on a trajectory, like the wrong path. Like, I don't want you to spin out because it's not the answer that you want.
Tyler's actually scheduled, if not next after next, to do one of these from prison to peer work interviews. This is news to me, actually.
Yeah, it's so eventually I was like, so we've only been talking about it like the last couple months. And we did the paternity test, and he's the father, and so I'm not going to take that chance away from him. And so he's involved in Carson's life. He's been involved in Carson's life since the beginning, since we got out of treatment. He got out of treatment. So
he was involved in Carson's life as a friend, as straight support.
Yes.
Willing to take on the role, even though you guys aren't in a relationship.
Yes.
He has a girlfriend.
Yes.
Right. And then he found out that it's his actual son.
Yes.
That's amazing.
Yes. So
that's dope.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was not expecting that. So, even though you got the chance, you were in jail, what would you say motivated you to turn your life around and pursue sobriety and stability?
Besides having the baby, besides getting a second chance of freedom, I would say what motivates me the most is, having that second chance to maintain, a life.
Not squandering it, right?
Yes, not even, if I even think that I might get in trouble for it, I'm not doing it, because that's how,
straight.
For sure. I think, I can recall that, like, when you think you're not getting out ever again, multiple times in life, I don't know how many times, I don't think I have any more chances out there.
So what inspired you to become involved in volunteering for nonprofits, and what roles do you hold in these organizations?
Okay, so I work with a couple different organizations here. Pursuit If You Want It is one of the main ones I work with. I'm their secretary, so I take notes during our board meetings. I help facilitate any events that we have, like we did the Easter baskets. We just recently went to the 100 Women Who Care. So close, so close. We'll be doing that again, I'm sure. But I feel like it's super important to help people in reentry, because a lot of times when you get out of a facility, whether it's jail, whether it's treatment, whether it's, whatever the case is, where you're getting back into the groove of things, having up here definitely takes a relief of stress off. And I've been in and out of incarceration all my life, and I've never really worked with it here. And so I feel like this time around, it's very important to seek out those resources, which is, I also, with Pursuit, I'm going to be mentoring a female that's getting out of prison here in August. I've already been corresponding back and forth with her, which is super cool. Another nonprofit I work with is the Healing Hearts Ranch.
Yeah.
With Christy Dees out there off of Little Rock Road.
That's like peer support with horses involved, right?
Correct.
Wow.
Correct.
Yeah.
We work with horses. So I got introduced with her through drug court.
Mm-hmm.
I did the program, the horsemanship program through drug court, when I was fresh in my recovery, fresh out. And just from that gate, I was like, oh, this is where I want to be. I want to be out here on the ranch. There's that Cortney over here. Mm-hmm. I want to play out here with the horses and play out here on the toys, tractors, whatever the case is. And so
maybe fix them if they break down, right?
So I bonded with her like right from the get-go, like, hey, I know I'm going to be doing community service here in the future. Can I come out and do work for you? And right then there, she's like, yeah, I was out there scooping poop, in the middle of summertime.
Scooping poop, I remember.
And I'm just out there having a blast, I'm loving it. And so right now we're in the middle of doing a thing for the Washington Women's Corrections, WCCW, where we had the superintendent of the prison come down to the ranch, head of DOC, a couple other program coordinator, and something else, projects manager there at the prison.
Yeah.
And we are going to be getting a horsemanship program in the prison, where this is a pilot program. We haven't done this before. we had them come out to the ranch, gave them a little rundown on like what we do with the horses, and then they left loving it. They loved it. Went back to the prison. They're like, we want to schedule you to come up to the facility and see if we want to bring the horses up here. And so we went up and did the tour, which they weren't going to let me go into the prison at first.
Yeah.
I was highly discouraged.
Yeah, I remember, and you navigated it very well, and you ended up getting allowed in, right?
Correct. I did. I literally reached out to my attorney, reached out to drug court people, reached out to everybody, talked about it in meetings. Like the day before them going up to, after realizing, okay, I'm not going to get to go. Got a phone call at like 5:30 the night before from the head of DOC saying, hey, we want to re-extend our invitation for you to come up here.
Nice.
We heard from the prosecutor. So prosecutor Elizabeth McMullen, who is my original prosecutor on all of my cases, she reached out to DOC and vouched for me on my behalf of what was going on with my charges. Because I never was convicted on some charges, DOC got all my probable cause. So it's like 14 pages, like page after page.
Yeah.
Every time I interact
with all the mess.
Yeah, all of the mess. All the mess. Like no truth. Like, oh yeah, that happened, but what's the truth? The truth is this is what happened. And so on paper it just looks like bad. And but then, I talked to the people I need to talk to and they all vouched for me. They see it that I'm definitely making changes in my life, creating support, working with the right people to get the right programs going for people to help people. Because that's what I want to do. I want to help people.
So how do you balance your personal and professional life while maintaining your sobriety?
I would think that balance to me is staying on routine schedule. So I go to the same NA or AA meetings. I work with my sponsor, same days, same time, same meetings, same work schedule, same court date. I keep very strict routine.
Mm-hmm.
And that has been, my number one go-to in my sobriety. Like, stay on the schedule. And it's worked out for me. And so that's what's keeping me sober today. That's what's keeping me in routine, keeps my balance between, work. I work at Great Floors, drive forklift, I drive truck. But then at home, I pick up my baby from daycare. We come home, we do the dinner, bath. We're in bed at 7:30, 8 o'clock every night. I watch my show, go to bed at 9 o'clock. It's still light outside. I go to bed.
Yeah.
So I just say I'm very strict on routine and try to keep the same flow of things. That way I don't get disbalanced.
Yeah. So what challenges have you faced in your recovery journey and how have you overcome them?
Some major challenges I have faced. So some of the major ones are me not having a car. My car breaking down over and over again. Till I was just like blue in the face over the stupid car. Yeah, that was something. Again, broken into at drug court because it was broke down at drug court. Was a huge one. Really discouraged me. I literally want to go and be the old Cortney and go searching in the homeless camps right down there and go knocking on trailer doors and everything else. Literally, I was so upset about it. I was just like bawling that morning. Called my sponsor and she's like, just give it to God, things. It's just things, there's more things to come. Just stay focused.
Yeah.
I left drug court that morning. Sabrina's like, I didn't know if you're going to go left or you're going to come back right.
Yeah, which leads to this kind of question. You're kind of answering it. So how do you handle triggers or temptations that may arise in your daily life? Like, times where you wanted to get back into that old violent, hunt these people down and find out who broke into my car, but you did not.
I did not. Yeah,
right?
Correct. I did not, and I have not. So there's been a couple times where I've gotten mad.
We all get mad.
I get mad, and sometimes it's hard to reel myself back in. Like my wheels will start spinning, and it's hard to get myself to maintain and get composure.
Yeah.
And so these days, I just tell myself I'm trying to be the best version of me I can be. So for me to be that, I need to demonstrate that I can hold it together. I'm not going to be impulsive. I'm not going to be reactive. I'm not going to be this person that people know they can poke, 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 and then explode like I would be before.
Yeah.
Bend, 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 and then snap back, and then it's just a mess. And I can't afford to clean up that mess right now.
No,
I don't, and I think that comes with age, a little bit older, being able to like feel things out, see how the world kind of works a little better, more understanding, has really mellowed me out a lot, and just keeping focused.
So, can you share a specific moment or accomplishment in your recovery journey that you're particularly proud of?
I have lots of moments that I've been super proud of this journey.
Yeah.
Like getting my license was a major thing for me. Man.
If you didn't say it, I was going to say it. If you didn't say it, I was going to say it.
Getting my license was a major thing for me. I don't know how many times in the past I tried to get my license and I just wanted way too much for me. But this time around, I was able to come up with some money, get a down payment, make payment plan. I just finished paying off it. I'm working on my credit. I just finally got a credit card, get secure. I got some money in savings, starting to build up from the bottom. Child support. My first paycheck actually was $74. I cried. I literally cried. I called my sister. I'm like, I don't know what this is. I'm calling people.
You called me.
I called you too. Like, I swear I'm just gonna have to go back to selling drugs. They're like, no, Courtney, just hold. It's only for how many hours? And I'm like, okay, well, let's see the next paycheck. And it was like $160. And I'm like, oh my gosh, what is this? Kind of got discouraged there for a second. But my sister definitely has been motivated, helping me through a lot of whenever I'm in doubt, I call my sister. My sister's been there for me, Kelsey. Anybody that doesn't know my sister, she's great. She's been there through thick and thin, no matter what. She's my half sister. We have different dads. And yes, so got my license, got my first paycheck, a real paycheck. I've been paying on child support, which now I have paid actually one of my 3 cases off. So nice. I'm making progress. Okay. They just took all my income tax for child support, which is another big chunk of change that's getting paid off. These are all things that I would not do on my addiction. I just didn't care. So I'm building my credit. I'm going to try to get a car soon. I have some money saved up. That's my next big goal that I'm going to be working on.
Financing a nice car.
Financing, save some, put some money down. Whatever the case is going to be, that's what my goal is.
Yeah.
I'm still living in sober housing.
Which is funny because I wanted to give a big shout out to Rhonda Rosenlaw,
for sure,
who is amazing in our community, and we are co-board members of the Strophe Foundation, which actually funds drug court.
Yes.
Right. And
this house.
And I voted. I happen to be, one of the yays and everybody else on the board for the ability for this house to even exist. Rhonda manages this house. She's doing an amazing job. So talk about how that has really helped in your recovery, because the Oxford house that you were in closed, right?
Yes. So I was in Oxford when I first got out, and it was great. Women and Children's House out in Shelton. I liked it because it was set out of the way. I wasn't here in Thurston County. Mm-hmm. But almost a year in, we get a letter saying that the owner is terminating their lease with Oxford. And our outreach at the time scrambled to try to find a house to reopen or buy. We couldn't find one. And so in December, the house shut down. We ended up shutting the house down. But I started reaching out probably like August, September, and about October-ish, I got the word I met Rhonda from being through Pursuit. And she's like, hey, I have some things in the works. Yeah. Then I get a word from Sabrina beginning of, November. Hey, hold tight. I got some things in the works.
Yeah.
And then I hear about the Strophe Foundation, what they're doing for the house. We moved in. We're the first participants that have lived in the house. Mm-hmm. Me, Ashley Yale, Brianna Marsh. We all live here it's called Gratitude and Grace.
Let's say that. Gratitude and Grace?
Gratitude and Grace is the house name that Strophe has. And that's this house.
Yeah. Yeah. Beautiful house. Beautiful.
Yes. And it's definitely been a blessing. It all worked out. And coming from Oxford, coming into Olympia Sober House and coming into the Trophy House, the rules pretty much are coinciding.
Yeah.
Not a lot changed.
Yeah.
Not a whole lot. And that's okay. I got my baby here. Come and go.
Yeah.
Basic.
And one thing I
basic
like about
rules.
it is, and you can probably tell me more, after you graduate, you have an extended period of time where you can still stay here. So you're not just, oh, you graduated and then kicked out.
Yeah,
Which
correct.
I really love that
Yeah,
part
for
of
sure.
it.
So we can be here up to 18 months after we graduate because they figure, 18 months after you're out of the program, you should be able to have rebuilt yourself
Yeah.
to, spread
Yeah,
your wings and
it's
fly.
just like peer work, right? You want to work yourself out of a job.
Yeah,
You want to build people up to where they are able to use self-advocacy and self-sustaining skills and their recovery capital and their community support and their natural supports so that they can move on and then open the space for somebody else to start the process all over again, right?
for sure.
Okay, so last two things. One, I want to give you an opportunity. Imagine 10 years from now, Erica's going to watch this. What message of hope do you have for your daughter?
To never give up. Never give up. When people tell you that you can't do it, show them that you can. Be that odd one out that, people are like, oh, hey, I didn't think she can do it. And whenever I hear that in the back of my mind where I think people doubt me, that makes me have so much more drive. Oh, I can't do it here. I'm going to show you that I can. And for my daughter to have that same type of drive and hope, that she can see the things that I've done. And she's been through all of this with me. She has seen me at my worst. She has seen me at my best. And I would just hope that she just never gives up. Never gives up. Keep
Don't
going.
give up, Erica.
Yes, don't give up.
Don't you do it. All right, and the last thing I always offer people in these interviews is you get 3 questions my way.
For you,
Yeah.
I get 3 questions. Okay, so when did you decide that you wanted to start doing peer work? At what point?
Probably. So even when I was like in the midst of things, I always had this desire to be of service, to help people. Like when people in my immediate circle would come to me and be like, I want to quit, like I'm done with this. I'd be the first one to be like, yeah, you could detox at my house, or I'll take you to the treatment or whatever. But I always felt and was like the hypocrisy of it, right? Here I am selling all the drugs, but yet I want my close people to be sober and do good, and I'll help them whatever it takes. I throw money at it, whatever, to help them get right. And so being in prison this last time was like, I get to make a choice to now have my innermost desire and my inner calling align with my actions in the community, because it was a reset. So when I was in prison in CTAC, I wrote a better place, a reentry program. And so PLAY stands for Pursuing Life After Crime Education. And that's where the first time the Pursue It If You Want It kind of slogan started getting used in that light. When I was doing music, it was under my name, Be Active, Pursue It If You Want It, right? So the seed was always there. It was always something I wanted to do, but I never felt good about doing it as a hypocrite. Right. So
Okay. And what, like, you have so many children. How do you keep it all together?
I mean, honestly, it's for one, I have a chat on. We all have iPhones, and there's a chat that I named Pops in Us.
Okay, so like
And
a
so
family chat.
all of my older kids are in it.
Okay.
And so we can communicate in there. We have mandatory family days, which is usually Sundays,
Okay.
and a lot of times the older kids come over and we play board games, or we always do stuff like Mother's Day. I spent with one of my daughters and 2 of our younger kids, and then another one of my daughters should be on her way to my house after this. After we get done here and spend some time with her. And it's just a matter of them being connected with each other, and always making sure, like, if I'm awake, I answer my phone for any of my kids, and just trying to be present.
For sure.
Last one.
I have one more question.
You do?
Oh shoot. I don't have another question.
All right. It's
You put
all
me on the
good.
spot.
I always do. It's great. And you've watched it and you didn't know it's coming, so it's
Yeah.
even better. Right? Well, it's been an honor. Your house is beautiful.
Thank you for having
Super
me.
proud of you. Oh,
Thanks.
thank you for doing this. A lot of people don't realize that the real currency in life is our energy and our time, and volunteering that just to tell your story and inspire somebody else. Shout out to Calvin, K1, Dan Ditlow. All of them are scheduled, and,
Yeah.
and yours will land on the 6th, June 6th.
Okay.
Is when I'm imagining they'll be able to see this story. But yeah,
Yeah.
thank you.
Thank you.
Pursue it if you want it.
Yes.